It's the Alien Conspiracy Podcast. We are your hosts, ETA. Hold on. Let me start that over one more
Frank
time here now. Frank Murray.
And fuck you, San Diego.
Yeah. It's the Alien Conspiracy Podcast. We are your hosts, Agent ETA.
Agent Kruger.
And Agent Anderson. Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. Have you had a strange event that you'd like to share with the show? Or perhaps a question or comment? We can be contacted at alienconpod@protonmail.com. We would love to hear from you. All right, guys, this week's episode... The Kecksburg UFO incident. Dun, dun, dun. This is a really good one, folks.
Heck yeah.
This one was selected by Agent Kruger, so thank you for the selection, sir. It is a really good choice. First, before we get started on the episode, I just wanted to, usually I haven't been doing the mind boggles lately. I like to try to do a little something. So when I was actually doing the research for this, I was listening to a little album called Disco Volante by Mr. Bungle. And I had a little bit of a synchronicity here when I was looking up. So I was curious, what does Disco Volante, like what's the deal with that? Why did he name the album that? There's no disco on the album, so what does that mean? Well, it turns out that name actually came from the yacht from the James Bond movie Thunderball. The yacht in that movie was named Disco Volante. And Disco Volante is actually Italian for flying saucer. So I read that, I was like, oh shit, that's like a coincidence, right? What do they call that, a synchronicity? Because, check this out, like I said, I was listening to this album while researching this episode. The movie Thunderball came out in 1965, the same year as the Kecksburg UFO incident. Boom. How do you like that?
It's a full circle if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Eyebrows raising.
Yeah, it's I don't know what
when you said that, the first like song that I thought of like off that album was what was it, Ma Mikasha Mousquaz or something like that. Like,
yeah.
But it's by the way that they wrote the music, you know, like in that song, I could hear the Italian influence, you know.
Yeah, well, they have a song, I think Violencia Domestica. I think that song's in Italian. I'm not 100% sure.
Is that the one? Maybe that's the one. You know, I think that might be the one I'm thinking of. Yep. I think you're right. Yep. Yeah,
it's good album. Well, not for the faint of heart. It's not whatever you're expecting. It's probably not that. So,
well, Mr. Bungle albums tend to be a bit of a fever dream.
Yeah,
you know.
So if you enjoy music that's not what you were expecting at all in any way, shape, or form, then check it out. It's a really good album. I really enjoyed it.
It's a good listen. Yeah, it's a good time.
All right. Well, now that we're done with our little synchronicity that I had, let's get on to the show.
Heck yeah, man. So 1965, right? Speaking of music, you know, I mean, that was a time where, you know, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs were belting out, you know, Wooly Bully, you know. Well, the Beatles must have had like Help or something like that. That must have came out around, I think it came out around that year. But there was a lot of really good freaking music. Classic rock, I guess what a lot of people would call nowadays, or, you know, Motown or oldies, you know. Whatever you want to call it, but there's a lot of solid freaking music that came out right around that time period. But yeah, I digress. Let's talk about. We should probably talk about, you know, the UFO case we have going on here.
Talk about that Keck.
So it was December 9th, 1965, around 4:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. People witnessed an object entering. Well, pilots even saw it entering the atmosphere over Canada, over Ontario, Canada. And it traveled from the northwest to the southeast, over Canada, Michigan, Ohio, and into western Pennsylvania. There were reports of sonic booms, and some pilots reported being rocked by shock waves. Shocks of the event were recorded on seismographs around the country. So this was right away off the bat. We know we had a real event here that was witnessed by multiple independent witnesses, which is one of the hallmarks of a really good UFO case. You have people who could not possibly corroborate with each other. So what they saw was a lot of people saw a fireball or flaming object, many of them reporting it with green flames, and it was clocked traveling about 1,000 miles an hour. It was traveling and it left a really long smoke trail. Some people said took up to 20 minutes to dissipate. One witness described it as a green glowing object with wisps of yellow, purple, and orange colors. One of the interesting things is that witnesses said it changed directions 3 times in its flight, and it dropped molten metal that started fires along its flight path. And that's an important detail, or 2 details, because one of the foremost explanations for this thing was a meteor, and meteors don't change directions like that, and they don't drop molten metal, and they don't go 1,000 miles an hour. Meteors travel much faster than that, something like 50,000 to 200,000 miles an hour, which is why they burn up on entry.
Well, and they typically travel, in straight lines until they get into like an atmosphere of a planet, and then they might be deflected off their path a little bit, by the however thick the atmosphere
is. A little
is.
refraction. Yeah, a little tiny bit of refraction, but not severe enough to divert its course. I mean, it sounded
times.
Like, multiple times,
within a relatively small, area, I guess you could say. I mean, considering if you had, well, and also, it also by many witnesses was described as having, it was traveling pretty slow, by some accounts. So it wasn't traveling at the speeds that a meteor or like a comet should be traveling.
I mean, it screamed across, multiple states. And also, a country. It went over Canada. And then Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh no, that thing was flying.
Well, it seems like at the beginning of the account, it was traveling quite some distance, and then once it got into like Pennsylvania, right, it seems like it slowed down and started. That's when it started making the diversions from its course, right?
Right, and some of the witnesses described it that it leveled off and tried to gain altitude as before it crashed in Pennsylvania, and some witnesses said they saw it flying directly overhead and that it was moving slowly. Now, we don't know what slowly means, but we can assume that at that point it was no longer going 1,000 miles an hour, because that's about Mach 1 1/3 or Mach 1 1/2 or something. Like, it's really freaking fast, and if that's flying overhead, it's going to be gone in a blink. You're not going to describe that by any stretch of the imagination as moving slowly. It's that's moving, that's definitely moving.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, they described it as also being intelligently controlled, as if it was trying to steer or gain control of itself, like it was sort of an out of control airplane or something. Most people who saw it initially said that they thought it was an airplane that was crashing or out of control. So when they saw it, people called like the police and the fire department, and they jammed up the lines, and that caused an immediate reaction. They got together search parties and went out to look for it.
Mm-hmm. And there was either even like I think there was a radio station in that local area also that was accepting calls. Like they made a broadcast over the radio saying that there was a downed plane, and anybody that had any information should call in and let them know, and then they would obviously send that information on the proper channels. But yeah.
And that radio station made this into an event because a lot of people heard that and went out looking for it. I mean, you're 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, it's quitting time. You're hanging out with your chums or whatever, and you hear that on the radio. You're like, well, shit, let's go find this thing, right?
Yeah, heck yeah.
I want to look up.
Heck yeah. Well, and also all those people in that area, they know that area. All the locals and stuff, everybody grew up there, obviously, and it's one of those areas where if something happened and happened in a particular area, anytime that location was going to, be let known to anybody in the area, everybody's going to know exactly where the heck that is, right? So, and supposedly that there was a lot of people that did group around the close to the crash site. They could see flashes of lights and stuff, right?
Yeah. And when it initially crashed, witnesses described a column of blue smoke where it went down. And one witness that I found, I couldn't find any corroborations, but one witness said they saw another object hovering above it for a short time that looked like a star or like a really bright light. So,
Mhm.
but I only found that one witness, so who knows? Maybe that was
And then
a helicopter or something. I don't know.
I couldn't find any more information about the
Well,
vibrations
it's
that
probably
were.
Venus.
I
Yeah.
mean, people reported vibrations and a loud thump, and I just wanted to try to see what that could possibly
That reminds me of
relate
this
to.
one time.
Well, I mean, it could just be a sonic boom. Even if it was some sort of far-flung alien technology, if it's breaking the sound barrier and it doesn't have any way of overcoming, like, like relativity or normal matter or anything like that, then it's going to make a sonic boom. That's just how things kind of work.
Oh yeah, I
Mhm,
was thinking
mhm.
this was the reports coming from when it crashed, and they were reporting the wisps of blue smoke and stuff like that were coming. It was, I mean, you could read like it's what was on the wiki at the time I was reading it, but it's just I don't know. When I hear reports like this, I just try to imagine like what the hell would it have been like to see that firsthand. A lot of kids saw this.
Yeah.
Oh
though.
yeah. Well,
I'm
one
sorry.
of the craziest thing about this case, I think, well, one of many things that are crazy, but I mean, if you really think about it, there were literally thousands of people that saw this at least like the trail of whatever it was that came in. You know what I mean? Before it even got to Pennsylvania. And the magnitude of this sighting is you can't, in my opinion, you can't really overlook it. You know what I mean? It's right up there with everything else. You know what I mean? Like some of the biggest. I mean, and this this comparison has been made before, but I'm not going to be the first one. But like Roswell and other events like that, I think this is right up there with that event.
Pennsylvania and Roswell, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. So yeah, the comparison has been made many times, but like I agree with it. It really is that big of an event.
I would say it's even better than Roswell as far as cases go because we have a lot more solid evidence.
Yeah.
Roswell, I'm sure we'll get around to it sooner or later, but
A lot more witnesses
It's
by far.
Roswell doesn't have, at least that I can find, it doesn't have like really great evidence to it, which is why why I haven't at least suggested doing it, because a lot of it is just sort of speculation, unreliable witnesses and stuff like that. We don't have really any evidence behind it. But that said, there are some really interesting things about Roswell that kind of make it a good case to look at. But as far as actual evidence, this case is right up there with the best of them.
Well, hell yeah.
Yeah. So the witnesses, like we were saying, a lot of people went to the crash site. They found it. It was apparently not that hard to find. And they also had search parties of like firemen and volunteer firemen and police out there looking for it because they thought it was a crashed airplane and they wanted to go and, rescue people or put out the fires or whatever. What they found was... Yeah, go ahead.
One of my other favorite situation with this is the story that's been told, supposedly that like a group of the volunteer firemen, I believe, were out there and they found the crash site, what have you, and they were there before, I guess, just before the military showed up, and I mean, all right, so the most famous depiction of this is going to be on Unsolved Mysteries. Obviously, yeah, that's going to be the first thing that people are going to think of if they've seen that episode, which is actually a pretty good episode. But and famously, Unsolved Mysteries left behind a depiction of the UFO, supposedly what it was supposed to look like, and it's still there to this day. But a depiction, a model they made for the episode. But yeah, so supposedly, there was a group of people that were searching out there. They're volunteers. And they had found the crash site, found the supposed object, and it was shaped like a walnut, right?
Or an acorn.
Or acorn.
Acorn, I'm sorry, yeah. Walnut, what the hell am I thinking? Acorn. Shut up already. Anyways.
Or a bullet, if you really look at it. It almost looks like a Civil War bullet, one of the early aged bullets when they started making them oval.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
If only I could do Jedi mind tricks. I'll just wave my hand and say, I did not say the thing you heard me just say. but
and I'm not going to edit that out too.
I know it. And yeah, that's why I made the Jedi mind trick joke.
You will edit out that.
Yeah, wait, well, by the wave of my hand. I hope so. But anyways, I doubt it. So back to the story though, like this group of trackers, hunters, whatever. I mean, searchers is the proper term. came across the object. They noticed it was shaped like a acorn, right?
Mhm.
And it also
Or a bell.
yeah, or yeah, a bell as well, yeah. And it supposedly had some like hieroglyphic type like writing on it. Not necessarily hieroglyphic, but that was like the closest thing that like the those observers like described it as, that they could relate it to. And right after they found it, military personnel came on the scene and basically just ushered them away. Said, "Hey, get the hell out of here," And this scene is quarantined now.
Yeah, within
And
an hour. The military was there within an hour, which
Yeah.
means that they had to have been monitoring it and they had to have already had a team ready to go. Because
Yeah.
if they didn't have the team ready to go, like let's say they had to call troops up from the barracks or something, it would have taken more than an hour to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And supposedly like on site, there was estimated to be, 35 to 45 personnel, like right there within that time span. And not only that, but the whole damn near the whole town in the fire station where all those volunteer firefighters were using that they were using that area to stage their search party, right? That area got taken over by military personnel, and eventually, well, I mean, within a couple hours, their buildings were shut down and taken over basically, and they couldn't enter their own buildings. The military personnel said, you can't enter here right now. Whatever is going on here, is private. So when we're done, basically, you'll get the building back.
Right.
Is what they were telling them.
Yeah.
So I mean, the presence of military personnel not only searching in the field but also taking over, key points in town. It depicts a certain amount of interest. A heightened level of interest. In a very short period of time.
I can't imagine them doing something like that for a meteor. The official explanation is meteor, and
yes, yeah,
it's just there's no way to imagine a scenario where the military would do this for a meteor. It just ain't gonna happen.
Well, and that explanation wasn't made until it was a long time after the event happened.
Well, I mean, even in the 40th anniversary, it was when NASA came out with an official statement.
Is that when it was?
I mean, it wasn't it was about the Russian satellite.
Yeah, we'll get to that later. That's a little different. But let's talk about what the object looked like a little bit. Let's back up a little bit. So it was described as acorn shaped. We said that, but it was a smooth, shiny metal without like any rivets or windows or obvious openings or, doors or anything like that. It was not broken in any way, but it was, some witnesses said that it looked a little bit dented off. And where it landed, it carved a furrow in the ground, and it looked like it had knocked off some branches on some trees around it.
Which by the way, real quick, because there was a lot of the locals right in the immediate area that described the landing scene as having like smoke coming from it. And I personally think that's probably what that smoke was coming from, because all the people who supposedly saw the vehicle, like up close or from a close distance, they didn't describe it as having smoke coming from the vehicle itself. So I'm thinking for sure whatever that vehicle hit had to have either caught on fire or, it had to have caught on fire.
Right. Yeah, in fact, I have a witness statement that I read that specifically said that the vehicle was not smoking. Yeah. So yeah, that's a pretty good notation there. That I think you're right that the stuff it hit into probably was smoking, but not the vehicle itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why the heck is it like I keep trying to find sites of like the actual pictures of the actual crash site to see that indentation.
Really grinds my gears about this episode?
No, ETA, what does grind your gears?
Yeah, well, no, what Agent Kruger just said.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Can't find that damn picture.
Yeah, well, there were pictures taken. I was able to find pictures of a smoke trail in the sky, which was really interesting to see. But I didn't obviously see any pictures of the craft itself, even though we know there were some taken and we know they were confiscated by the military, which is, again, frustrating because we know there's...
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there was one time you know, after drinking a large Red Bull, I left a smoke trail in the sky myself after jumping on a trampoline. So it's not something necessarily impossible. I mean, like, you know, it wasn't like, you know, that big of a smoke trail, but
It
was
happens.
there.
It happens.
Well, let me just tell you, it was there.
I think it should be important to point out if it was a bolide or any of the meteorites that they were explaining, we would have had a more of an impact. I feel like,
Yeah,
because I mean those don't just reduce speed as before, like to cushion their landing.
right.
That right there is like, what? Come on, like, get out of here.
Well, yeah, and it does bear some small, slight resemblance. For example, a meteor can break apart and give the illusion that it's changing direction. It can also actually change direction, like kind of skip off of different layers of the atmosphere, but
Yeah.
it can't change direction 3 times and appear to be intelligently controlled like this thing does. And it also, meteors are never going to go 1,000 miles an hour. That's just way too slow for what it is.
And they're not gonna shit out molten metal and burn grass,
Right.
I mean, unless I didn't think that was a thing.
Well, and there's actually been some studies into this as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I might be confusing the guy's name, but I think the guy's name was Stan Gordon. He did quite a bit of research into this and like kind of plotted the course that this object took, you know. And if this is to be believed, I mean, the course took a couple like curves, like straight up, like, you know, not necessarily like 180 curves, but like not too far from, like, you know, somewhere between 90 degrees and 180, you know what I mean? So it's you know, it's not something that like an object that is just coming in under one direction should take at all, you know, like I don't know. Yeah. Like what I'm saying is obviously I don't think it's a meteor or a comet or a something like that that's coming in that's not intelligently you know controlled. But, you know, it's just like, you know, it's just I think it's the case that I also don't think it's a satellite, to be quite honest, because
It was a failed extinction event. It was them trying to wipe us out and reset, but it messed up, and they're like, "Ah, shit, it's a dud."
Yeah. Hey, give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
All right. I'll wait for that motorcycle. I don't know what the goddamn motorcycle convention
like a
by my
tank
house
rolling
today,
in.
dude. I don't know what's going on here. But anyways,
I know
I
what
have a
that's
couple
like.
of witness statements for people who saw the crash site. So I'll read a couple of those. It was definitely, unequivocally, positively, absolutely no aircraft, plane, helicopter, or rocket, at least not to my knowledge. It was in an area that was part field and part woods, and we went down to investigate. We found the object had crashed at 30 to 40 degree angle and had broken off numerous tree branches in its impact path. My initial reaction was, this is no airplane. I observed no shrapnel, no breaking up of the fuselage. It was one solid piece, no doors, no windows. And then another one. Preliminary searches found no bodies or casualties. It was shaped like an acorn lying on its side, like the acorn nut is in its shell when it's on a tree. I've been a machinist for 24 years, and I've worked with a tremendous amount of different metals, and I have never seen any type of metal that looked even close to that. And ETA...
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Hey, it happens to the best of us.
My bad. No. There was a knock at the door. I heard like this motherfucker knocked like he was the police and shit, man.
Huh.
All it was a I'm sorry, it was Amazon delivery, but like,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's UPS or something like that, but like, yeah, no, they knocked like pretty hard, and I heard it, and I was like, what the hell? Like, that's obviously you know, it's a loud enough noise where I got to go investigate this shit, you know?
Right.
I mean, what if somebody be trifling and stuff on my property?
Can't have the trifles on your property. You
No,
take care of that kind of stuff.
Well, that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Is what that
Don't
is.
trifle on me.
Yeah, dude. That's what I always say.
Yeah. All right, so let's get back to it. So as ETA mentioned earlier, there were some number of military people. The numbers I found for most of the witnesses, dozens to over 100. Like, there was a lot of them there by most accounts. And not just the military, but like the Air Force, state police, like all kinds of different branches, not just one particular branch. And also NASA was supposedly there. But some people think that might have just been a cover because NASA typically would not go to something like this. But hey, who knows? Maybe they were. We'll talk about NASA later because they are involved in this case, strangely enough.
Mm.
But yeah, the military on the scene, they forced everybody to leave. And some people they told that it was a radiation hazard, which I don't believe for a second, because if there was a radiation hazard, with all of the locals who showed up at this scene, there would have been reports of people getting radiation sickness, which there are a grand total of 0 reports I was able to find with any sort of radiation effect. So I don't believe that for a minute. I think they were just trying to scare
some sort
people.
of symptom.
Yeah. And they also just had people, their witnesses who say that they were forced to leave at gunpoint. They just imagine that, how crazy that is. The military is pointing guns at people and telling them to leave. The military was worked up about something, right? They threatened people like by saying that they're going to confiscate their cars or arrest them, put them in jail, obviously, and they're the military reaction,
in certain terms, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, they were not acting normally. The military was not. Even if there was something there that they were cordoning off or whatever, they were acting in a very excitable manner that is unusual for the military. They were flipping out.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And that's a very common description among a lot of the witnesses.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned earlier John Murphy, the news director of a local radio station, of the Greensburg radio station. You touched on him a little bit. I don't know. But he took...
I didn't, but I mentioned a radio station.
Yeah. So this guy went and took several rolls of film and made an audio recording on the site describing what he was seeing. However, before he could get out of the area, the military confiscated all of his film except for one roll, which was later taken from him by a couple of, I guess, for a lack of a better description, Men in Black type agents. And he wanted to do this Murphy fellow wanted to make a documentary about the events, but after he was visited by these two MIB types, he canceled his plans and would never talk about the incident again. So the idea here is that they scared him somehow, or convinced him to not talk about it.
Yeah. Well, they convinced him it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, but I guess it didn't matter anyways. The theory is that he was still thinking about doing something involving the incident, because 4 years after the event, he was killed while on vacation in California. It was ruled a hit and run accident, but there were no witnesses, so we don't really know what happened there. But his injuries were apparently consistent with a hit and run. But it could have been a hit and run by a car, or by, I don't know, government agents trying to shut him up, or anything really. Maybe he fell out of an airplane. I don't know. But unfortunately, they silenced him, allegedly. Yeah, go ahead, ETA.
Oh, no, I already went ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, it's okay.
I have a bunch of anecdotes and witness statements here that I thought were really interesting for the case, that kind of describe what was happening that night. Because you can read about it on Wikipedia, but I don't think that really fully does it justice. I mean, it was
it doesn't.
Chaos and bedlam, I think, was going on there. There was a lot of excitement in the general area. So one such anecdote is a fella named Don Sebastian and some of his friends. After hearing about it on the radio, they went in their car to look for it. That when they got close, there was a roadblock that turned them away, a police roadblock. But they went and parked somewhere, and I'm guessing, and they got around the roadblock somehow. And when they were able to see the object, here's what they described. They said, or this is Don Sebastian, he says, "I saw a line of soldiers down in the clearing. Best guess, maybe 100 guys, armed at hip level and walking single file parallel to the crash site. It looked like a drill, perfect formation, nobody out of step. There was a scream. This was a terror scream, and it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And then after a minute or two, he heard another scream, and he says, it didn't sound human. That's when I lost my nerve. I figured this was a place where I could get shot, so I was out of there." So I guess he bugged out. Another anecdote.
I mean, if you feel like you're going to get shot, yeah, definitely get the hell out of there.
Well, yeah, he heard some screaming and he saw all those soldiers with guns, and the basic environment of the area was one where, you got a lot of armed individuals that don't want to be trifled with. So you're not going to be trifling with them,
No, definitely don't blame him. No.
Yeah, I would not stick around myself either. I mean, who knows what they would have done if they caught you snooping around in the woods.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to test it.
Yeah.
I heard from one witness though that one of the reasons that they would seal off the area, besides it being the event that we're talking about, was due to rocky terrains and just a hazardous area. Supposedly, like there is certain types of like mud that's like quicksand or something like that.
It was a
just
ravine,
didn't want people
supposedly, like where the whatever it was that crashed. That's where it landed.
And they just didn't want the attention that was grabbing was to. I just don't buy that either. No.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
I don't know, and like I had kind of touched on before, also like all those people that were there being a looky-loo, whatever you want to call them, or trying to get just a glance at what the hell is happening in their town,
gonna be.
their area.
This is a small village, right? Technically,
Yeah,
I'm
they
not
know,
sure the population.
They know this area. I'd be willing to bet damn near either 90% of them or almost all those people that were there had probably been in that same ravine, either, at least a couple times in their life, or maybe even more, I don't know. But, it's like I said, all those people that were there had probably grown up there, so they were very familiar with this area. I don't think that they would have gotten themselves in trouble because of the terrain. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So another witness statement by a guy named John Sybil said that he saw the object when he went to the crash site. He hid in the woods for over an hour checking stuff out, and at some point while he was hiding, he saw a hand come out of the flat top of the object. And that one, it doesn't seem as credible as some of the other ones. It kind of sounds made up, but it still is like it's a creepy one, right?
it sounds like the perfect little scene for like an encounter in like a sci-fi movie or something,
Yeah.
It's just like, it makes your imagination kind of run wild.
Right.
I like it.
War of the Worlds when the hand just fell out when they, it's when they were defeated. And
but yeah, that's one of the funner ones. Another one, Michael Slater, who was 14 at the time, lived in a nearby house, and he was hanging out with his brother, and they were keeping it groovy outside, I guess. I don't know what they were doing. They were sort of hanging out. So they were told by the military that if anybody came by for directions, to give them wrong directions. And the military, somebody drove by in a Jeep to tell them this. When they stopped, they say, hey boys, by the way, Sonny, you want to do your country a favor? When somebody comes by asking for directions to the crashed UFO, go ahead and tell them the wrong directions. So apparently the two boys had a lot of fun misdirecting people and sent them all over Tarnation, but not the actual crash site, which is, I guess, kind of fun. If you're an ornery little kid hanging out, or a 14-year-old, whatever, and somebody says, hey, you want to do your country a favor? Well, here's something you guys can definitely handle. I mean, I would have had fun with that.
I tell you what. Yeah. I tell you what, if I was like 10 years old or something like that, or, and somebody in uniform told me to do something like that, I'd be like, hell yeah, brother. Let's do this.
You've instilled duty.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was made to serve my country, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. But
it'd be the best thing ever.
Part of their witness statement, they also saw the infamous truck that left the area. I don't think we talked about that yet. Now's a good time as any, I suppose.
Yeah.
One of you guys want to handle the truck?
Well, I mean, I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind handling it. But anyways, we might want to add it right here. Sorry, I kind of messed off that handoff right there. You know what I mean?
No, it's good. It's good. I just wanted to.
I was just like, yeah.
I just want to hand it off because I like to balance it. Like, I don't like to have one person talking too much, and I feel like I've been talking a while here. So I was trying to hand it off to if you guys know about the truck. If not, then I can talk about the truck.
Well, I mean, which one you talking about? The flatbed that had the covered object on it, or the box truck?
Yeah, the flatbed truck, because people saw it entering the area with nothing on the flatbed, and they saw it leaving with.
What about there? So supposedly there was a box truck that had showed up also that had like a that had like a 5x5 box that was carried to the scene, and people say that they think that there's something in that 5x5 box that was carried by military personnel towards the scene.
I don't think Geiger counters got that big back in the day.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I also heard reports of like a truck with like a crane or a tractor of some kind on it. And people were saying, skeptics say that, oh, well, this is pretty rough terrain. There's no way they could have gotten anywhere near there with trucks, like as if that's something the military is incapable of. So I wonder if on that box truck, if that was some sort of equipment to maybe drag this thing out or hoist it up so they could get it out of the ravine and put it on a truck or something.
Yeah, no, bullshit. Like the East Coast is highly saturated with military personnel and vehicles. Like there's very few areas, I think, on the East Coast, especially Pennsylvania included. It's going to take very little time for them to get resources to that place. I mean, this was fast. This event that we're talking about, like the response time, it does seem to be at the shortest estimations to be pretty damn fast.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with the Pennsylvania state, like how the roads work, but in the parts of the East Coast I've been to, like New Hampshire and Virginia,
you want to watch out for deer. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah, but the roads, I'm trying to say, is like most of the time they're just one way. You have one direction going that way and one direction coming back. So they couldn't afford just to be like, oh, we got lost and this and that. They had to, I mean, to play into what Agent Anderson said, that it would have taken hours to get out there. And then not only that, it would have been an effort just to get to the site within wherever it was when it landed in near Lake Erie. I feel like it takes like 4 hours to drive to Home Depot when I'm out in the East Coast. It's crazy. So it's for these guys to be readily available right on the time.
Here's the thing though. Like I'll draw from the street gospel, sugar free. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. You know what I mean?
There you go.
And that's a fact.
That's a fact, Jack.
Yeah, dude. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. So did you also hear about or read about the flatbed truck?
Yeah, the one that had the covered object on it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people that claimed to have seen a truck like that pass by wherever they were. With a large object on it that was covered.
Yeah, covered by a tarp, like a cone-shaped object covered by a tarp. And people saw it entering the area without anything on the flatbed, which I think is an important detail because it sort of solidifies that they took something out of there and that something had the exact same shape as the supposedly crashed object. So it's not that hard to put one and one together,
Yeah. The most famous, I think, description was like it was a covered object that was like the shape of a Volkswagen Bug.
Yeah.
So that's anybody who has watched any of those documentaries. I think any documentary I think I've ever watched on this subject has made that comparison.
Right.
But there's so many damn people that say that they saw this thing, in whether it be on a truck or at the crash site. It's I don't know, man.
Including the witnesses who saw it overhead as like a fireball in the sky, that would probably have to be in the thousands of witnesses. So many people saw this.
Oh yeah.
But
well, I mean, to go back to when the witnesses were seeing molten metal fall from this thing or from the object itself, I wonder if it was being housed in something and then that's what shed it off and like it reduced speed because it was just breaking off all this stuff and then it just became the interior, which is this walnut or acorn, pardon me.
Yeah.
You're not alone now, ETA. Now I mean, I don't know.
Are you sure?
It'd be crazy if this thing
might have been almond.
Could be, yeah.
I mean,
I like almonds.
Does this thing at all speak to you guys as an engine of some sort rather than the craft itself?
I mean, it could be. I mean, who knows what it could be? It could be anything, but that does make sense. That's a good theory that this is only part of something and the rest of it burnt up upon re-entry. Because assuming it was whatever it was out of control and lost control somehow, that's a good theory. I like that one.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I found a picture, boys.
All right. Well, while you're looking at that, I got another anecdote. I might not get to all of these, but John Hayes was 10 years old at the time of the incident. The object crashed near his house, and according to him, the military set up headquarters at his house because you could view the area from his house. And just on a side note, I looked up a map of where the crash was supposedly at, and it was not that far from a road. So we're not talking in the middle of the woods you'd have to hike 6 hours to get to. It was in like a rural area, like, farmhouses or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But
it wasn't dense forest or nothing.
Yeah, it was not in a remote area as far as like away from civilization. There was people all over the place near here. So that the house, supposedly you could see the area or the ravine where it crashed from the house. So the military set up there, and they told the parents to send the kids to bed. And John Hayes said that his bathroom was downstairs and his room was upstairs. And he said that night he went to the bathroom an awful lot so that he could kind of see what was going on there and spy on them and stuff. But supposedly the military that was at there used the house's telephone to make calls. And here's a statement of what Hayes says about it. He says, there was a lot of men in uniforms and there were some men in suits. And it was clear that the men in suits were in charge of everything. They were over the top of the military and they had a lot of clout. I couldn't see down into the hollow where they were at, but I did see 6 guys in radiation suits take a box down there. I didn't see them bring it back out. So that could be he just was not, able to see what was going on all the time, but that's just part of what he saw. But one thing that I think is really interesting about this description is his description of the guys in suits. That didn't really make sense to me, and it kind of stuck out because as far as I'm aware, there's nobody in the chain of military command that wears suits. They all wear uniforms, right? So the FBI, if they were there, might be wearing suits, but they wouldn't be giving orders to people in the military. They would not be above them. They would just be working with them. But I don't know, that whole thing, that kind of makes my imagination go wild that this is like some sort of secret division in the government that we don't even know about to this day.
Yeah.
G-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to like find out exactly who was in charge of the scene, right?
Right.
Could you imagine this happening nowadays with our phones? Dang it. Why couldn't it have happened then?
I know, right? Dude, we would have all kinds of pictures. There's no way they could shut all that stuff down but
yeah.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Some people have disputed this account because I guess somebody got a hold of his family's phone records and they didn't see any suspicious phone calls. But I'm going to go ahead and dispute that myself because if the military's there, they will have the ability to hide that stuff if they want and not have it on the phone records. And besides, they're probably making all sorts of long distance calls and whatnot. And the family probably couldn't afford, to cover all those phone calls. So they probably had a separate line.
And back then, all phone lines were hard line phone lines. So, I mean, it's much easier to intercept a phone call or get rid of records.
Right.
If everything is that simple, I guess you could say.
All running through the boards.
I think they had government specific things because I think it was when I was reading that book, the Report on Unidentified Objects by Edward J. Ruppelt. He said in there that one time he picked up a regular phone line and he told the operator a secret code and the operator patched him through right away to like whatever he needed to talk to, like somebody in the government. So I think they had these roundabout ways of doing things. Like you could go to anybody's house, pick up the phone, say, Vector Tango 5, and then the operator would be like, hold on a minute and patch you through, But who knows?
We had, the operators were still working on those switchboards back then, right? In the 60s?
Yeah, I believe so. Okay. I'd have to double check that, but it reminds me of a movie I've seen called The Vast of Night that maybe we'll talk about some other time. It was a really good movie.
I've not seen.
Did you guys have any anecdotes that you saw, or should I just keep going here?
Keep rolling.
Yeah, let's keep going, baby.
All right. But I'll talk about a reporter named Ernie Hoffman. He was sent to the scene with a photographer, and as he arrived, he saw the flatbed truck leaving with the object on the back of it. And he couldn't get into the area or anything to take pictures, obviously, or we would have known about it. But that was just an interesting anecdote, a specific person who saw that. Another person named Jerry Betters also saw the truck and said that it had a white star on the door, military style. I don't know if that's, enough to specifically name the branch or whatever, but just another detail.
I found that guy's photo. I believe I found that journalist. If he snapped a shot of the truck, there's actually, I put it in the Discord, there's 2 military trucks with white stars on doors, and it's on a flatbed.
Huh.
It's a metallic item. Yeah.
Can you see the object on the back of it?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
All right.
Take a look.
I'm going to have to jump into Discord real quick to check this out. I did not find that picture. That is
in that Discord I've been hearing about, huh?
highly interesting.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be left out. I got to jump in that son bitch too.
Hit it up.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, there's 2 versions of it. There's one with it on here, and then there's another one somebody drew a frog over it, and it looks like a frog.
Frog. What does it look like? Pepe?
No,
not Pepe. Not Pepe.
Close.
Kermit. Looks like. Is it Kermit?
It's like like if Kermit had a brother he doesn't like to mention too much.
Oh. Oh,
He's in prison.
I'm not Kermit. I'm Kermit.
All right, I see somebody whacking their hot dog with a newspaper. Let's see.
What?
Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah. That was me on Wednesday.
So
sorry.
is this supposed to be the object?
I mean, from what it's popping up, yeah, that's.
Oh, I see.
In on a subreddit too, and there's also.
Oh, dang.
Are you sure that's not from
4chan archives? There's a paranormal
Unsolved Mysteries.
That's crazy. I wonder if that's a recreation, because I didn't find anything like this. That looks like a picture of the actual object, not.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, from what I can gather, and then there was this, but I can't. I'm having a hard time blowing it up and reading all of it. It's super tiny.
I mean, that looks like you can kind of see some hieroglyphic markings on it. Even that's crazy. Like it's hard to tell. It could be like an aberration on the picture, but you could see what could be some kind of markings on there, and it does fit the description of what we saw. The only thing is that one that said that had a flat top, but like I said, that one wasn't really reliable, and I didn't see any other witness statements talking about a flat top. I just like the detail of the arm coming out because it's creepy,
Right. Yeah. I feel that.
I don't know. To me, it looks. I don't know, it's kind of crude.
It is metallic and it is bronze. I mean, if that's
that could be spray
the color
painted.
grading back in the day, they could have spray painted it. I don't know. That's
dude. That's a
I'd be
total
convinced.
rattle can job right there. If I've ever seen one.
Yeah, it's
You know what I mean?
it's hard to say. Like I want to believe that that's the object. I mean, it could be.
Somebody tried to tinker with the light and stuff like that, and tried to put some filters over it so you could see the object a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
But I still
don't know.
if you look towards the base of it, like where it bulbs out, like to the right hand side, you can kind of make out some of those the signs or the symbols that were being reported that were on it.
But
Yeah.
And you could definitely see that it made an impact on the nose. I mean, that is dirt. I mean, that's dried up wet dirt.
yeah, but it also looks kind of
Yeah.
suspicious to me too. Like if you look at the object, it doesn't quite fit in with the picture. Like the edges look a little too sharp. It kind of makes me wonder if it's like a Photoshop job.
I don't
Right.
know,
And
dude.
there's also something else to point out is that the truck on the left hand side of it does kind of look like it's cropped in.
Yeah.
But because if you look at the
It kind of stands
front
out,
right
right?
tire,
Yeah.
like it looks like it's not indentation. Like the grass, I don't know. I think if it is a shop job, then that's a hell of a job.
Yeah, but like the truck too. Like it just looks it looks out of place, doesn't it? Like it doesn't look, I don't know.
Well, if that's the time and date and era of those trucks, and like as the gentleman that you were quoting was mentioning how those trucks had a white star and all that, I mean, these definitely have that military branding.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the anecdotes. I think that's pretty much, I might cut some of those out actually, because they're not, some of them are just kind of repeating stuff. But there is a couple ones that we haven't talked about yet. One of them is that, so supposedly it was taken to Wright-Patterson, right? And an anonymous witness claims that he was a contractor hired to deliver 6,500 special bricks to a hangar at Wright-Patterson. And when he did that, he snuck into the hangar and he saw the object, and he also saw a small body on a gurney next to the object, and it was like it had lizard-like skin, and its hands only had 3 digits. And supposedly those bricks were something to do with like shielding radiation or something. I don't know. And
Ooh, some tungsten carbine. Sorry.
This is one of those anecdotes that sounds plausible, and you're like, dude, that sounds like something they would do. They would need somebody to deliver those bricks and all this other stuff. But on the other hand, it's not completely believable to me, because if they had such a high level of security at the crash site, it will be no different anywhere else. They're not going to just let some rando contractor sneak into the hangar. I don't know.
I'm not trying to like throw this off completely, but or like derail it. But when it comes to the illusion of power, I think there's a level of trust that the military is given the people, civilians, when they say back off, get the hell out of here. But in reality, I mean, as we saw, and I hate to compare it to it, but like Capitol Hill. I mean, you would think a government building is going to be like more extensively, like it just, you didn't think that if somebody has the gall to do something, they're going to do it and they're going to get through. And it's just what they do in that moment to suppress it or whatever the hell that happens, to react to it. But I don't know. Back in those days, with the lack of security cameras that like we have today, and a lot of the stuff that like trip sensors or whatnot that gives them an idea that somebody's approaching, like I think it could have been done. I mean, I don't like believe in the statement 100%, but I mean, hey, back in those days, I feel like you could, if you find a crack and you can slip through it. I mean, possibly.
That's a good point, actually. Maybe once it had been delivered to Wright-Patterson, they got a little lax, so they figured it's on the base and they don't have to really be as strict anymore about it because people aren't getting on the base anyways. That does make sense, actually, yeah. But I wanted to mention this one because it's one of the anecdotes that's more often mentioned, and it's very sensational. It's one of those things like, I want to believe that this happened and that they really saw that, but I'm also kind of like, I don't know about this one. I just have one more anecdote to end up on, and this one I found interesting. Somebody apparently came out after they saw the Unsolved Mysteries show, and they said that they were an officer in the Air Force stationed at Lockbourne Air Force Base near Columbus, Ohio. They were there that night. I guess maybe they brought it to Lockbourne before they brought it to Wright-Patterson or something. I don't know. But in the early hours of December 10th, a truck arrived at the base and he was ordered to guard it. It was a flatbed with a large tarp on the surface covering a conical object. He was told to shoot anyone who tried to get too close. And this anecdote it's kind of neither here nor there, but I thought it was interesting because if it's true, it just kind of gives you an example of the fact that just how serious the military was taking it. They were told to shoot people, even people trying to like kind of look into it and kind of investigate, curious looky-loos, shoot them. So if that's true, it's quite a remarkable statement, but it was so many years after the fact that we can't really say one way or the other if it's something that was true or not. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Was ist das?
Oh, ETA is back. All right, we are about to talk about some of the theories. There's a ton of them, and I won't go over all of them, but I'll just talk about some of the more major ones that I was able to find. And we're waiting for you to join the discussion.
Oh, sweet, dude.
So we talked about the official explanation, which is what was offered to the public at first, which was a meteor. We've already talked about that one extensively, so we don't have to cover that one. But we mentioned, I think we touched on it earlier, some point in the 90s, NASA came out and said that, hey, by the way, you remember that Kecksburg thing? We actually have some debris that we collected from the crash site. Turns out it's from a crashed Cosmos 96 Soviet satellite. Now, the thing about this one is that a Cosmos 96 actually did crash, but we know that it crashed in Canada, and it's provably false that this was not a Cosmos 96. So that begs the question, why did NASA lie and said that they collected debris from the crash site that was a Cosmos 96 when it's easy to prove that it was not? I don't know. Why would they say that? It's kind of a strange thing to say.
Well, not to stir panic. I mean, thousands of people definitely saw it in multiple different states and also like in Canada. I mean, I think it's all an attempt to throw a lid on it. Whether it works or not, they don't care.
Yeah, but
that was their official
they
statement.
came out in the 90s and said this, like some 40 years after the event.
Oh, yeah, just 40. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Probably when nobody's even paying attention to it anymore, except for, a few people who are hardcore researchers or something. And it's almost like they're trying to spark up the discussion again. It reminds me of when the Air Force did the exact same thing with the Roswell case, where they came out twice many years after the fact and said, oh, those people that, those small bodies that people reported seeing, those were just crash test dummies. Well, it turns out crash test dummies hadn't even been invented yet, so that's provably false. The Air Force, they're not stupid, so why would they put out a provably false statement? It's exactly like what happened here.
Well, hey, I got one question.
What's that?
Do you know what the acronym for NASA is? Do you know what that stands for?
Not a simple answer.
Never a straight answer.
Never a straight answer. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say
simple, straight.
I thought you were going to say need another 7 astronauts, but that's in very poor taste.
Hey man.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to go there, dude?
I was going to suggest you don't go there, but
No, but then you did.
Too late.
Yeah.
That's what they were known as when I was a kid, anyways. But yeah, anyways, that's one. Those are probably the two most popular ones. Another one is a General Electric Mark II reentry vehicle that was being used as a spy satellite, fell out of orbit and crash landed in Pennsylvania. And it does have a couple of things that check the box on the surface of it. For example, it had control jets that could have been used to sort of steer it. It was made partially out of copper, which could have burned green when it was entering, could have caused a green fireball, I suppose. I mean, it would have had to have a heck of a lot of copper, I guess, but whatever. I mean, let's go out on a limb here. And it had markings of some kind on it that I suppose if you were smashed out of your mind on something or other, could have seemed like hieroglyphs. I don't know. But the problem I have with either satellite theory is just, imagine a satellite re-entering the atmosphere. That's going to burn up, and if it hits the ground, it's not going to be sitting there in a nice acorn shape. It's going to be smashed to bits all over the place, right?
Yeah, it's going to be in pieces.
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot that goes into these satellite arguments that you can go into detail and argue and do math trajectories and all this other stuff. But it has that major point of failure for me, that is if it did re-enter, it would burn up into little bits. And if it did hit the ground, it would just be a smoldering piece of wreckage. It would not be a smooth piece of metal, and
I still think, in my opinion also, even if the satellite did have jets on it that could alter its course, I don't think it would still be capable of taking the course that this thing supposedly did, especially once it got into Pennsylvania. Some of the turns it supposedly made, and also the deceleration as well. I don't think that a satellite would have done this or would have been capable of doing this.
Right.
I actually threw up another. It seems to be as side by side as I can get it for the Cosmo 96 satellite compared to the depiction of what was said. Eyewitness.
It looks exactly like it, right?
Now, if it burnt up around, like if that thing was being held in a housing, and if that's some sort of new propulsion technology that they were testing, I don't know. That's fishy. All right,
so
in itself.
That actually is a good segue into one of the theories that I had heard about this case, and it connects with World War II. So some people that they may be familiar with UFO lore or what have you, that also connects to World War II, not Foo Fighters, but supposedly like the Nazis were developing some kind of a vehicle that was bell-shaped, supposedly. And there's not like a lot of like evidence for this or anything like that, but it's a story that has been passed around many times and stuff, but the description of the bell-shaped icon, vehicle that the Nazis were supposedly developing fits this description to a T as far as like the shape of it. You know what I mean? The acorn shape, a bell shape.
Yeah, it's called Die Glocke, and I'd like to just a little PSA. A lot of people seem to be confused about how to actually pronounce that and what it means. So D-I-E-D is how you say it, not die, but D, and that means the. It's just German for the, and Glocke. So there's a little bit of confusion there. So just to help people out who are interested in how to say that, and it just means the bell. And that's actually, I'm sure people have heard of that. It's a pretty well-known conspiracy type deal. I'm not sure how to classify it exactly, but yeah.
Well, and supposedly there's documentation that was absorbed by our government and the Russians also, after World War II, or as World War II is winding up,
Right.
And the race to absorb information was on,
Yeah, actually, Operation Paperclip, we should do an episode on that at some point. That
yes.
one,
oh, dude.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say about that.
That's something that I would need. I think we all should spend some time ramping up for that episode, because there's so many damn things to talk about when it comes to Operation Paperclip. I mean, there's a lot of individuals. Like, we could do like a series of episodes just on like the different individuals involved. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whether it be a scientist of one shape or another, that was absorbed by one government, or if it was like a particular type of area of research that was concentrated on, whatever it was, or even like some of the spies that were involved, and
to spring off that, to spring off, I think it would be cool to see a crescendo, or like just climax to a paperclip, where it's like all the cases we've been covering, they all boil up to what Operation Paperclip. You know what I mean?
Well, because as the pendulum was swinging, right? I mean, and the war was obviously in the Allies' favor. I think that this stuff was known. I mean, they had to have been planning for the operation. Like, there had to have been people within each government that wanted that information. They're aware, of these technologies that they didn't have, that the Germans did have. And also, the Germans didn't have any regulations like we did as far as what industries could do with research. So there was certain fields of research that we weren't willing to, I don't know, willing to
forego.
Edit.
Well, whatever. Yeah, edit. Yeah, that would be a good edit. Anyways.
Well, back to Die Glocke. The main idea is either, like you said, it's something that had been captured from the Nazis and was being experimented with, or some people think that it was some sort of time travel device, and maybe the people who crashed it were the Nazis themselves. They test flew the Die Glocke. They test flew it in the 40s, jumped forward to the 60s, and then those people from the 40s crashed in Pennsylvania. So they kind of jumped a time a couple decades there. As far as, like you were saying, there's no real evidence to back it up. It's just sort of like a cool story, But it's one of the foremost theories. A lot of people are into Die Glocke because it does look. There is some evidence that the Glocke was some sort of something, and it does match the description really well. So I think that's why. But beyond that, there's not really a whole lot tying it together. Certainly nothing concrete.
Yeah.
I think what also gives it a reason to exist is also that we can look in our past and see that there's been certain accounts where little gray men have had some sort of through their sorry, hold on, edit.
Lost your train.
I'm just trying to say how George Washington, you know what I mean? He was taught the tactics of, through little gray men that came out of the woods, and they were like, hey, come on, we're going to teach you how to win this war. You know what I mean? And then it's just, there just seems to be this correlation with some sort of intervention with an outly worldly presence that steers us the right way or the wrong way. I don't know, but it seems like there is some sort of involvement on some level to, whether it be, advance us in technology, medicine, or, weaponry. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy stuff. I mean, I would like to think that's not real I don't know. I want to believe in this World War II, the Die Glocke. I mean, especially with some of the structures that they found that they tried getting rid of when, Nazi Germany was falling. It definitely gives your, what if part of your brain some excitement, at least for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love that stuff. Like I don't have, for me, something doesn't have to be real in order to just enjoy the theory of it, you know?
There you go. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So speaking of, I actually, I had a thought when I was researching this one. I came up with a theory of my own, which of course doesn't have any evidence to back it up. But what if at the time our government had been seeing UFOs, well, even before the 40s, but starting in 1947, they started seeing like a whole epic crap ton of it. So our government is obviously going to react to this in some way or other, and they're going to try to react to that defensively. So what if they came up with some kind of satellite system or satellite weapon that could be used to disrupt a UFO, right? So if we spot like an extraterrestrial ship, they're able to kind of jam its frequencies or whatever and mess with it and make it crash. So what if our government actually brought this thing down as a defensive measure because they were afraid of like, you know, who they were or what their motivations were, and it was actually a defensive measure? That, I mean, obviously there's no evidence for that, but I just kind of thought, what if this was something that we did?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and to play into that, I would say that I would think that the people that put that or installed that type of system would be the ones that are keeping, you know, people out. Is that like they don't want us to get more out of other visitors or something like that. There's something that they're pulling from this earth or whatever it might be. Like I've heard resources like gold and other materials that you can only find, you know, not in abundance in other places, but it could be available here, and they want to, you know, put an iron curtain on it, if you will.
Yeah, could be. There's a couple other theories. For example, this is a good one. One theory proposed is that it was a film canister drop from a secret spy satellite. So back in the day, they used to literally drop film canisters from the U-2 spy plane or from satellites or whatever. They would take the pictures and then they would just drop them. And I won't go into the mechanics. It's pretty remarkable how they used to recover this stuff. But the point is they actually would have to have physical film to deliver, and it was dropped in a little canister. And that's one of the theories proposed to account for this thing, which is
that's awesome.
Which is
hey, make sure it's really discreet, okay?
Which is
then an hour later,
you could look up a picture of these canisters, and they're really small. To think that this could account for the Kecksburg UFO is just completely absurd. So I don't really entertain it that much. It's just I wanted to throw it out there because it's one of the theories, I guess.
Well, it was like a rocket, right? Like a spike. It would just shoot out and impale, or just hit the ground and then just sit there waiting to get picked up.
A lot of them, they would actually send an airplane up and catch it midair, if you can believe that. Oh. How crazy that sounds, right?
I think of that type of, I forget, it was called the Halo system or whatever the heck it was called, but I mean the most famous one I can think of or example is when Batman gets picked up, and I think it was, oh man, that's terrible, sorry, it's like a giant plane comes and it has two big like poles on the front like in a V shape, and it snags up a balloon or whatever is hanging up there. And it just flies on right out with it.
Yeah, I forget the exact name of the project and everything involved, but I think it might have been like Project Skyhook or something. I don't know.
Sky Crane, Skyhook,
something like that.
No, I get, yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but and then
no, I mean,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
go ahead, Agent Kruger.
Okay, no, it was just to. Oh shit! Now I'm. You gave me the mic, and now I'm just shitting on it.
Hey, did you guys see those pictures I put on Discord?
Oh no!
Well, no, not yet.
You like them?
So this is what was inside the actual thing, huh?
Oh yeah,
sure.
All right, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I think you might appreciate that.
I do indeed.
Hide your wives and daughters if there's ever aliens.
Yeah. It all makes sense now.
I've seen too many goddamn Japanese.
I love the Japanese.
I know where this Japanese cartoon's going. It's not going to end well for her or
for
me.
Any of our listeners. I'll just say that ETA is posting some hentai into our Discord channel. And leave it at that. I'm not.
No,
I'm not going to put any. I'm not going to be any more descriptive than that because
I would never.
I'll just leave it at that. All right, so
I will just say I would never, but it is the best kind of hentai.
The last theory I had was that a lot of people think that this is probably the most plausible one outside of some sort of ET craft, was that it was some sort of secret US craft that was, or maybe some kind of test craft, maybe like an X-plane or something like that, or maybe a craft that had nuclear propulsion. And that's actually fairly plausible, because if they were testing something, it lost control, they were able to kind of glide it down and land it. It's a little far-fetched because we didn't have anything at the time that could kind of perform like this did. We didn't have anything that looked like this. It didn't have any rivets. It was all smooth surfaces. But as far as like something from Earth or something explainable, that's probably the best explanation. It was just some sort of test vehicle that we made and that we crashed there.
Yeah.
But
there are reports supposedly that our government had a hold of like a craft that had been like basically found at what would be called like an archaeological site.
Yeah.
That were, what you'd probably describe as a UFO.
Yeah.
So if they had figured out how to use said craft, then maybe that could have been what it was. And that could also explain why they were so feverishly intent on getting it back, maybe.
Right.
I remembered what I was going to say, and I got to say it before I forget it, but I think it's, what are the rules when, like, say if a satellite, like if it were a Russian satellite or something that was in that time, I mean, in 65, we weren't the bestest of friends, you know what I mean? So, like, is there some,
yes.
like, if one of our drones lands in Iran, do they pick it up, they dissect it, and then they turn it into something that they can use, right? I mean, what were the rules back then?
At this time, the United States had a treaty with Russia. They agreed with each other that if either one found a satellite from the other countries, that it would be returned. Now, I don't know why they would even bother making this treaty, because, I mean, come on, nobody's going to return nothing. If they found our stuff, we find their stuff, whatever. Nobody's returning crap, right? Which actually, that brings me to a theory that I also had was, so the Cosmos 96 Soviet satellite did crash in Canada. What if the Kecksburg incident was some kind of plant to distract the Soviets to give us time to go extract the remains of the Cosmos satellite that was in Canada so we could get that? So what if the whole thing was just completely made up?
Study it.
Yeah. It was just a distraction.
Yeah, study it. Even if they did give it back to them.
Yeah.
Maybe they give them enough time to study it and learn what they need to learn from it.
Yeah. So that's another idea I had. But yeah,
But regardless, there's answers that are, questions that have still not been answered. And this has been coming up on, in 2005, it was the 40th anniversary. So, come on. Like, they still are holding their cards close to their chest, and they're just going to come up with shit that it was a Russian satellite.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And that's basically my summary of this case is, at the time when it happened, and ever since then, this incident has been treated as like the highest level of security and the highest level of classification, as the most sensitive you could treat an event, which leads me to believe that something extraordinary happened. What that is, I have no idea. Was it aliens? Could be, who knows? Something happened and the government took it very seriously. So at the very least, we have that. It was something mysterious that they don't want us to know about. And if it happened in 1965 and it's still so important that they don't want to let us know what it was, I don't know where that leads you, but something, I don't know, something top secret. What do you guys think?
Yeah, my beliefs line up pretty much exactly with that.
Agent Kruger?
Say my final thought on it would be definitely to agree with Agent ETA when I like to believe in the fun theories. But what I feel like is the real truth would probably not be as fun. But I'm going to stick with the fun theories, which, at least I guess my personal theory, when I think it could have been some sort of propulsion technology that was being housed or was being used, tested out, and it somehow flew its ass all the way over here. It crash landed in their neighbor's yard. If it was Russia testing it or whoever it might be, like, we found it, we sprung onto it, and we called dibs right away.
You know what?
It was like,
I think I'm going to change my opinion. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, it's
I
fine.
think
You're not allowed to do that.
I just no.
No.
You know what? No, and I just changed my
stuck in your
opinion.
ways.
I think this was a Nazi craft. It was Das Bellensteinen Heinen, whatever agent Anderson had talked about earlier.
You're talking about Franz and Hans. They came over here from 1940 something.
Das Gruper. What was it?
That
Die
Die
Glock.
Schweinhund.
Die Glock.
Yes.
Dude, it would be
Yeah. All right, so I think
We go
okay.
up in air. We come down very safe.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden they're in America. Oh shit,
yeah.
that's not good.
Yeah, I picked it up and then I put it down. Yeah, but I think it was Das Bellenstein. But I think it was the bell in German. But I think it was from the Antarctica base that the Nazis had set up. During World War II. You know.
Scheiße, was ist das? Pennsylvania.
Oh,
No, nein.
Es sind mein Scheiße.
Nein, little small Franz. If you look at if you go back to Discord though, I found one of the satellites.
Clearly that was Nazi vehicle that came from Antarctica.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Clearly.
All right.
It stopped in Egypt. It got a couple tattoos on the bell, and then it just took off.
Oh, hell yeah.
If you look at that, I was able to find the inside of one of the landers, a Russian lander. And I think you could, in that time, in that space age race, the space race, I always noticed these giant screw-like type of bulbs. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but if you look towards the top of what I sent you, just above Agent ETA's depiction of what aliens look like.
I don't know what you're talking about, but it's getting me all hot and bothered.
It's just above what you posted.
Yeah.
But it has something similar to the bottom half of that bulb-like depiction.
But look at it though. It's not a smooth piece of metal. It's got like all kinds of stuff sticking out of it. No, definitely not. You know?
Yeah. That's what I'm gonna get to. Now, if you look at the signs or the hieroglyphs, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but the symbols that are on the object. Now, look at the arms that are going and connecting to that lower half. Now, if this object was breaking up into space and those things that are clasped to that object are breaking apart and probably spewing out a bunch of steam gas, I don't know, something fuel propellant.
That reminds me of this one time.
Spraying, like just squiggling all over it like a pen, you know what I mean? And making those symbols that we thought we saw. I don't know.
That also reminds me of this one time.
Plus looking at this thing, if this thing was doing some sort of re-entry, it would just burn up. I mean, there wouldn't be anything left of it, you know?
That explains the molten metal on the exterior. And then like, I'm just trying to say like, if that could be, what if, I guess there's a lot of those, but you know, if my brain were to, you know, ground itself with reality, I would think it's like, and not saying what we say here isn't reality, but you know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know. I could see that too, is that it was coming into space. It burnt up the molten metal that was shed off the exterior of the satellite. It melted off. It started a couple grass fires. And then like the symbols that we saw, or we think we saw, were actually those, like the pipes and everything that was connected to it. And when they're ripping off, they were just making squiggles and shit.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, but here's even if you had like an insignia painted on the side of something, that would be completely gone from burning up in the atmosphere. Or if they had like this, like the squiggles or whatever, I can't see any man-made craft coming down through the atmosphere, you know, because remember we have witness statements from pilots who said they saw it coming from the upper atmosphere. So if those people are not making it up, and I don't see why they would, if something's coming into our atmosphere and burning up on the way down, I mean, it's not going to make it to the ground in any sort of shape where it's going to look smooth at all. It's going to be like, just, if anything makes it to the ground at all, it's just going to be like shrapnel. It's not going to be in one piece, you know?
And it's going to be an impact though. I mean, there's going to be fire. It's going to be more of a presence.
Hell yeah.
It leaves bigger
It will
footprint.
not go quietly into that dark night.
No, rage.
Please continue that. Dude, I would love to hear you do that speech right now.
I mean, come on now. I would have to have that. I would love to, but I would have to have that speech in front of me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would need to practice. Come on.
Rage,
I mean, hey, if you want to do that, dude,
good.
let's do it. But I would need practice, you know?
Yeah, maybe next time.
I would need a little bit of liquid encouragement too, I think.
Yeah, well, that speech is definitely best with liquid encouragement, I think.
Get damn Skippy.
But
I feel like everything is, isn't it?
all right, guys, you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah,
I could.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
but-
I could dig it.
About an hour and a half here, went pretty long. It's good though. It's a good topic. I think it deserved the full treatment. Thanks for listening. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. We also have an email address, alienconpod@protonmail.com. We would love to hear from you.